Welcome back. Big content. Threads. I feel like threads, it's like not even, I want to say it's a topic of discussion, but this feels more novel than an actual discussion to be had.
You can't dismiss threads because
yeah,
they're at what, like 50, 60 million numbers. You were stalking me last night, so we already had a short conversation about this, but
How impressed were you how late I was coming home from the office when you saw me?
Yeah, I still don't believe that, but
what do you mean?
It is what it is.
Adam was here till 12:30 last night.
Adam.
Your friend that you know.
Who is Adam?
He makes content in like the fantasy space.
Yep.
Can you
you
gotta like just chill out, buddy.
Constrained over here. My God. All right, so Threads. Threads, if you don't know, was launched by Meta, which is owned by Mr. Zuckerberg, and it is a Twitter clone lookalike. It is hoping to replace Twitter. And why do we need another Twitter?
That's my problem with it. So I'll just go out right away. Threads is gonna fail. Threads is gonna be it's gonna have the lifeline of like an NFT project or crypto when that shit was happening. That's what it feels like. It's like a spark right now where people are pretending to be excited about it. It's bad content. Most of the content is just people complaining about Twitter. The user face itself, the interface is not like great. It's got laggy, it's glitchy, there's connection problems, which is expected given how many people flooded to it immediately. The biggest problem is there's no differentiator. There's like literally nothing on the Threads platform, unless I haven't experimented enough, that you can't already do on Twitter. And Twitter already has the people, right? Twitter already basically screened all the people that wanted to be on Threads. So everyone's like, oh, people with big Instagram followings will take advantage of Threads. It's like, there's a reason they have Instagram followings, right? Because they end up
about that.
They end up in my thumbnails. They end up in my thumbnails. They don't end up on Twitter. That's you get popular on Instagram through pictures, not through words. And if you wanted to use your words, I'm not saying you needed to be smart or articulate, like you can't be those things if you're popular on Instagram, but you'd be popular on Twitter if you did that, right? So I would have been excited about this if this was just like when you're on Instagram and you have your normal feed, if when you swipe right to the next, tab or whatever, instead of like suggestions, that was Threads. Like I would tweet on Instagram. Why would that
make you more excited?
It's just in one platform. Yeah. Like I think it's an add-on. It's a feature, not a company in itself. And that's the way they approach this.
So do we need multiple social platforms? Like where are we in the world? Because the most interesting thing about Threads that isn't talked about at all, which is they made it extremely easy to log in, which is this one kind of online identity thought process. And they keep talking about this app like Magadon or something that I have no clue what it is, but they keep talking about the fact that you're going to be able to take this profile essentially and plug it into another app and plug it into another app. So they're not restricting.
What is you don't know what Magadon is?
I've looked into it a little bit, but I can't seem to figure it out. But the idea is kind of like, crypto, where you would have one crypto wallet and that connects to every platform. And this is what I've been dying for forever. The closest thing I'd say that we have to it is like when you can now authenticate, log in, and sign up through Google. Yeah. So like your Google email now creates a profile everywhere. I think this has been lacking forever. I see why platforms wouldn't want to do that because they want to control user data. They want to control access. They want to keep people sticky on their platform. But this is decentralization.
So I also think I don't know. I guess maybe this is just my, it's the way I've divided my audience. Like when I think of Instagram, I think of like, a lot of my like home friends and college friends and things like that. And I wouldn't mind having like an own Twitter timeline that I know is like more personal and people like that. I guess like, okay, when you think of the big platforms, right? Like if we narrowed it down to, there's probably like a big 4, big 5 platforms right now. There's TikTok, there's YouTube, there's Twitter, there's I guess Snapchat, LinkedIn.
That's the thing. It's growing. Threads.
Sure, but each one of them has an extremely identifiable alternative feature or prop to it.
But it doesn't anymore.
That's
just how you think about it. But it doesn't because TikTok is Instagram Reels.
No.
It is though.
Instagram Reels is a feature within Instagram.
Right. So
what I'm saying is the fact that they created an entirely new app for it makes them act as if this is like a new business and a new platform when they should have just, like the reason IG Stories was cool, right? And it worked, it was because they didn't create an IG Story app. Nobody would have fucking went on that and used that and been like, this is going to take over Snapchat now.
TikTok essentially created an IG Reels
They
app.
were the first of that kind, right? And then you take the feature of it.
Right, but YouTube Shorts has it. So it's like, what's the point of, if we're talking, the feature is short form vertical content. Why does TikTok need an app? Why can't it live in YouTube?
they're different companies, and they started off. They were different. They were a different value prop from the start.
But they're not anymore.
But it's
So
almost
Threads
like
is a different company.
Threads is a different company that didn't offer anything new. So I actually think about that because I have this conversation with a lot of companies within the fantasy and gambling space, right? And I think about, and maybe this is a conversation we've had on this before, but like DraftKings and FanDuel got big because they were first to market, spent a lot of marketing dollars. Now, in the same way that like any company that wants to come in and break through in the space needs a backdoor. They need a way that is different than just being like, I'm a gambling company, come sign up and we'll give you $500 free to do it. Underdog, right? If they ever become a sportsbook. Any of these companies that are big within fantasy, if they ever decide to go the sportsbook route, will be able to do it because they built an audience through a random backhole, like sleeper fantasy football players, underdog, best ball, right? Like those, the only platforms that are going to be able to get to like the major, be a Big Five platform or be a Big Five gambling platform or whatever, are the ones that have the audience on that platform and then add these other things in as like features. And I think if Instagram, if Threads was added onto a tab on Instagram, I would be way more into doing it because I feel like it's Threads is like it's very what's the right word? Interruptive. I kind of feel like in terms of like ease of use for a
the platform's shit in 3 days, but it's also taking on 50 million people in 3 days. Like we know where it's going to be just in 2 weeks and in 2 years. Like
in 2 weeks, are you going to be using it? Do you think?
I was not a fan of it from the start, so I'm probably not the person to ask. And I also have zero problem with Twitter right now. Like I don't think anything Elon's doing.
I could go on a rant for this for 40 minutes.
What are people upset
just what
about?
We're here for, a podcast.
I guess the rate limit exceeded. I understand why
people were just waiting for something to yell about.
No, that one's frustrating because it's the consumer has finally been left with a decision. Do I pay for the platform or do I not? Which you can't. Do
we have unlimited with a blue check?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, it's 6,000. So you have 10 times the tweets. So that's
non-payers only can see 600
a day.
Oh, I was wondering how people kept getting. I'm like, dude, what do you losers do? Go fucking work on something. Why are you reading 8,000 tweets in one day?
Right. So I guess that's a little bit why you weren't understanding of that, but. I get it. This is the first time in social media history where the social media platform is not fully free to use. Not to say that YouTube didn't have ads and that was the experience, or TikTok doesn't have the same, and that's how people monetize. I've always been team. I think the user should pay if they really care about their user data because they're just selling your user data.
I mean, you're not even on the team like the user should pay, but you're like very open to the idea of it's going to be super valuable for you.
For $8, no, not even from a creator standpoint. For $8 a month to use Twitter to get my new, like, I'm going to subscribe to Wall Street Journal for $8 or $12 a month, but I wouldn't pay Twitter, which is going to give me Wall Street Journal thoughts, sports thought. Like, literally.
This has happened every 3 months where people are like, when Elon took over, oh, I'm leaving Twitter. Come follow me on Bdjango. Yeah. Oh, he did something. He like tweeted out a picture of a girl in a thong. Oh, I'm leaving to go to fucking Kazoozle now. It's like everyone just keeps making these profiles.
Are those
like,
real companies?
No, I just made them all the time. I'm like, you're not fucking going anywhere. Shut your mouth and keep tweeting.
So, but this is the first transfer of people. Now, people haven't left Twitter at all, but they have started to at least invest in the platform, put content there. Their investment is still whack as shit. Like, it's still taking the best tweet from Twitter and putting it on Threads. The algorithm is brutal. You open the app and it feels like you're following
what's going on.
Yeah, 6 different people every time. It's just not there. I don't think this is the final version of it, but your boy Sahil Bloom said, hot take, I think this new app is going to flop, which is what Nick's saying. Yeah. Everyone seems to think it's the next big thing, but I disagree. I know nothing about consumer social. All I know is the fun new toy phase is over, and I don't feel compelled to open it. To be clear, I don't care. I have a large audience. The fact that the surface area of the new app is dominated by large Instagram accounts makes the current experience pretty terrible, in my opinion. That's where I want to start with.
The last 4 years of our world has been the shiny new toy phase for so many things, and we're starting to see a repetitive cycle of like it's getting easier and easier to identify things, in my opinion, and it's very much just like, is this adding value to people? If not, then the initial flame will ember out.
As someone who has a large Instagram following, a larger than I did Twitter following,
flex on them.
No, it's
how big?
But for someone like you, where I would guesstimate that your following is lower, not BDG personally, your following is lower. I go on Threads and I'm like, why does Shaq now have 4 million Twitter followers? Like, Shaq's maybe a bad example, but the Kardashians, like, people I didn't want to hear their tweets, like you said. So it has turned me off a little.
Because they took, so you think, like, since Elon has taken over, I personally think Twitter's improved. I think Twitter's way better. I think the For You page, people are just like hating on it for no reason. I think the For You page is good on Twitter.
I've started to use the For You page in a really interesting way. So the following account is what I like to consume, like, timely during the day. But if it's at night and I want to catch up or I missed the day on Twitter, I'll go for You. And it's gotten 100 times better, which is why I'm saying don't fade Threads so quickly. Where it is today is not where it's going to be in a month, because the For You page was ridiculous to start. But that's like any algorithm. It's
sure,
machine
but
learning.
say they narrowed down the For You page. Still, how is it different than Twitter?
It's not different than
Right.
Twitter, but
what do you think?
But the key is that people have jumped, not jumped for good. But this is the, like, Blue Sky. That's a real name of a company.
I know. I'm on that platform.
Jubilee, whatever else you made up.
Kazoozles.
Like, people never went to that platform. But, like, I mean, you know, Woj and Shams and Schefter are posting their breaking news now on Twitter and on Threads. That's different.
It makes sense because, like, everyone out here in social is always like, make sure you get to the new social platform. So I get why people are doing it. I just don't think anyone's, like, thinking. They're not using, like, common sense or, like, cool, if you want to go to the platform, do it. But there's no actual use case for doing it, in my opinion.
Is it
right now.
Okay? So I guess let's talk about Clubhouse, because Clubhouse was a new platform.
That's a new thing, yeah.
But it failed massively, and Twitter actually won with Spaces and copied the feature, which is different than TikTok, which is still winning, versus maybe Shorts or IG Reels.
All right, so if Twitter had come out with an app that they didn't call Twitter, they called it Threads to, let's say,
Kazoozle.
I don't know, headphones, right? They called it, like,
You're good at this.
like Buds, Beats, whatever you want to call it. Called it Buds. Would that have worked? No, because you need to go download a new app and then start, like, a resurrection of what you're doing again. My problem with Threads is, like, cool, you do have the follower count already, but it's constrictive to the actual, like, user experience of having to get on and do it again and opening up a new app.
I think they could build it into Instagram, though.
I think they should.
And
That's really
if
my point.
Now let's talk about if they did that. Where's your interest level?
For me, again, it would go back to, like, my personal brand is just a way for me to express myself. So I would have fun with it, knowing that, like, all of my friends from my past life are on it, and, like, I'd be comfortable tweeting to them and interacting with them, because I don't catch up with a lot of people that are, like, high school, college, like, fresh out of college kind of thing. So for me, it's more like a personal interest level. I could understand why. Wouldn't you like that better, though? Like, if they
was built into it,
if they built into it, and then you're 150,000, whatever it is.
As someone who was a social media manager first, like, that was my first job out of school. Every time there's a new platform, I just, like, cringe, because it's just more work for that person. Like, it's an entirely new position. 3 years ago when TikTok started, it just got tacked on to other social media managers' plate. Now people saw the value in it and they actually hired for it, put resources behind it. But the first 6 months of a new platform is so tough, because you're already doing your job. Now you got to run an entire other platform. For me, I just don't, like you said, if I make a short form vertical piece of content, it goes on IG Reels, YouTube Shorts, and it goes on TikTok. So if it's the same thing for Threads, then no, it doesn't really matter to me. So we should answer really the most important part of this podcast, which is, if I'm a new creator or if I'm a young creator without an established following, would you attack Threads?
I wouldn't. I genuinely wouldn't waste my time on there. But it kind of feels like I'm making a take as if, like, I'm in, like, the GM of a fucking football front office or something, and I'm like, no, this guy's terrible at football. I could be wrong, of course, but like, the way I see it, and I feel like I see the social landscape, like, relatively clear, this feels very much in the honeymoon phase. And I think in 3 weeks you're going to see that, 100 million people signed up. I bet daily active users will be at 5% of that tops.
So I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that this is probably the one time where a land grab is within reason and you have an opportunity. What I'm not going to say is do what everyone's currently doing, which is just take your best tweets and throw them on that platform, because that gives no reason. But if you can come up with unique content that fits that platform, then I think you might figure something out. No one's figured it out
What
yet.
can be unique there that hasn't been done on Twitter because they don't give you any capabilities that aren't already available on Twitter? You know, it's like, okay, let me upload videos or pictures or do threads or whatever. It's like, we already know that works on Twitter. So is there anything that came to mind?
Yeah, so one thing that I saw like on my first day on the platform is that 9:16, which is the vertical format, is not the best format for that platform. On Twitter, it's the wide
I like
format.
wide on Twitter too.
On Threads, the optimal format is the 4x5,
4x5 is good.
which is the Instagram tall Instagram feature. So even that, like if you instead of creating vertical, instead of creating wide, you created that might give you a step up. To be honest, I don't have the answer. If I had the answer of like what unique and new trivial thing I would do on that platform, then I would go and do it. That's partially why I'm not spending a lot of time on Threads, because it would just be copying what I'm doing on Twitter. But if you sit down and actually think about, all right, what are the features of Threads? Right now, to be fair, there are not many. I get that. But getting replies. Like, replies will be seen more on Threads right now than they'll ever be seen on Twitter. If someone big on Twitter tweets something out and you get in the replies, there's thousands of replies. Right now, if you give like a solid reply, maybe you get a little attention. For fantasy football, like I actually don't think a lot of the fantasy creators are probably popping over there. Do I think that's the optimal strategy? I don't know.
I have over 1,000 followers already on here.
Yeah.
My second time logging in.
Yeah. Well, the follower count is fire in a way, like because
that I do think is like one of the cool things. Like when you switch the account and it like automatically asks if you want to follow your Instagram people, right? Yeah. I thought that was like a kind of like a cool feature.
I've threaded 4 or 5 times and I have like 4,500 followers or something, which it's nice. It's nice to see a follower count and the engagement is higher. But it's a question now of get creative. Like think about what you think you should be doing.
Do you follow anyone on there?
Only like 3 or 4 people.
Okay, so when you open the app, is there like a following screen? Because I don't think I follow anyone, and it's just the For You page.
So they said it For You is the only thing.
For You is the only thing they have.
So when you do yours, who's at the top of yours?
Paris Hilton, Barstool, Cheetah Arena. It's just like
I got Erica Dimitrov. Oh, she's partnerships in Meta. I followed her. Ronald Acuna, like holistic psychologist. Like it really is. It really is a random one. Anyone who is on here that still watches Reels over TikTok deserves to be banned from Threads.
Can you please not encourage video content on here? This is the only place where I get to read.
Interesting.
Can I also just say I wish, like, I think peak Twitter is 70 characters in a tweet and no media. I wish Twitter went back to that. And
that's what they were. And my third ever thread was, it would be amazing if no brands were on Threads, just humans. Like, I don't know, would that, maybe that would be like a creator first platform. Right? Instead of brand, it would be creator first. Best creators win. And athletes, celebrities, famous people, all that stuff, they're still creators in that bucket. But Underdog, who I love to death and would not be here without them, like I don't need Underdog, Wendy's, McDonald's. Like give me a platform without brands. I don't need the snapback brand on there. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
It'll never happen.
It can't really happen. The financials of it like don't really make sense.
Why not?
Because they need to advertise.
Advertising different. I'm talking about brand accounts.
Oh, I mean, I never see brand accounts on my like Twitter timeline. I don't follow
mute everyone.
I just don't follow them. Why the fuck would I follow like
ESPN? Barstool?
Hell no. Here's the thing, like they tweet out like the most obvious shit. Like there's gonna be someone on my timeline that like retweets it. Like I don't need to see that fucking someone scored 22 points and had 11 assists and it was fucking fire.
Like you don't follow the NFL.
No, I would never follow brand accounts.
You're different than most
I'm built
people.
different. Yeah, correct. Everyone lived like me. We'd have brandless social accounts everywhere.
Well, that was my idea. All right, so your prediction is it flames out.
Flames out within a month.
1 month. So August 8th.
This next like the last 2 days plus the next like 2 days, maybe if that will have been everyone like got out of the way. Like here's my account. Here's a screenshot of my account. Yeah. As soon as that like floods over in the next 48 hours, it's done.
My prediction is it lasts, but
they're going to keep sending out fake numbers to you and say like, oh, there's 100 billion people on here. It's not real.
That doesn't matter to me. My prediction is it like Facebook is still chugging along. I can't believe it, but people tell me they're on Facebook. Like older people are on Facebook, so maybe it's
okay. So what would you consider like? I don't know. You're not saying success, I guess, but you're saying that it'll. I'm not saying like the app's going to shut down, but
right. That's the thing. Their version of success is probably like winning the market from Twitter. I'm not predicting
just
that.
0% chance.
But I think it could still last. You want to know what I think it is? I think Elon is rooting for them to keep pushing.
You think it because it gives them more engagement?
Yeah. I just no, because I think that when it fails, then it's like, look who's here. Come back to daddy.
Yeah.
I just think that I think that maybe they combine it. Like IG, do you remember IGTV? Yeah. Instagram TV. That was a separate app.
It became like Reels kind of, right?
Yeah, they brought it into the app, created a feature, which I think this, could potentially I mean, I would probably use Threads more than I use shopping. They moved shopping down to like on the app right here.
Yep. If the next tab over was Threads, I would read it.
What about
often.
the post tab? Like the post tab should just be over here on the swipe left.
Just a swipe? Yeah. I mean, that makes sense too.
So I think that my advice to a younger creator would be like, go for it, but do something original. Think of something original.
I just don't think that like they've given you the tools to make things that people haven't done on Twitter that like are original.
They haven't, but it's a new land grab.
Yeah.
And most of the land is being grabbed, but the people with 20,000 Twitter followers who had no Instagram following, they're now kind of shooting. Like, how many people who tweeted follow me on Threads did you follow?
Not a single person.
Right.
I don't follow anyone on Threads.
But that's what I'm saying is those people, they're not going to have a good crossover. So there are now a bunch of 20,000 follower accounts over on Threads who aren't coming from Twitter. So you do have a little room there.
I'm just out. I'm not going to put here's the other thing. If you have a focus right now, if you have a following elsewhere and it's going well, or if you have a platform that you're like in love with that you really like creating on, I would not transfer your energy to Threads just because it's here. I guess that's probably the better point to make here.
100%.
Yeah.
But if you don't and you are looking to do so, maybe go and take your chance there, because if it flames out in a month, then you burned a month. But it's high risk, high reward. Last question on Threads. What could Threads do over the next month that you think could actually change the whole social ecosystem as it pertains to Twitter and Threads?
I genuinely do you spend a lot of time on Instagram personally?
I hate Instagram.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I do. I like Instagram. I spend a lot of personal time on Instagram.
Reels or stories?
Nah, more so just like the feed and stories.
Yeah, I don't
I genuinely, like I've pretty much been saying since the start of the conversation, if they put Threads onto the app as the second tab in the app, I would use it often. Okay.
Interesting. Would it stop your Twitter usage?
No, I think I would tweet differently on both. Maybe not differently. It wouldn't stop my Twitter usage, I don't think. I don't tweet everything that I like kind of want to tweet sometimes, and not because I'm obviously politically correct or want to hold back. I'm just like, I don't like, it's just stupid.
Pull up your screen time on your phone.
How do I do that?
Just search like screen time. It's in settings. For me, my screen time this week is only 3 hours. Shout out me. Top app most used, Twitter. Second app most used, Snapchat. Third app most used, Instagram. Fourth app, TikTok.
Maybe I lied.
What'd you lie?
Wow, my daily average is only 5:49.
Yeah, mine's only 3.
Yeah, that's mine. I feel like mine's usually. Phone. I usually get I usually get a report that's like 9 hours at least.
Mine is
most used: TikTok, Twitter, Chrome, messages, clock.
Is your stopwatch running in the background? Maybe.
Yeah, if I like work out, I'll have my clock just open the whole time. YouTube Studio, podcast. Yeah, Instagram's not even fucking close to on here.
Yeah,
15 minutes. That can't be right. I've only been on Instagram for. Oh, you know what? When the week started, I think I deleted a few social apps because I wanted to like really focus. So I'll delete Instagram. I'll delete some of them at the beginning of the week, so I'm not like. Otherwise, my fingers just mindlessly like go off, and I'm just like I'm not even looking at anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of mindless scrolling, that's for sure. All right, so your thing is if they put it in Instagram, you think you'd use it more. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing I'd be.
I don't see a need for having another app, but yeah, it's like what else could Twitter become or Threads become?
I was kind of one thing I feel like Twitter tried. And they did well in the audio space as it relates to Twitter Spaces. But I'm really surprised just like the audio feature itself. Mm-hmm. Like either one having an app dedicated, not from Twitter, but just like a social app that popped off where it's a timeline or a news feed, but everything is like audio. You know what I'm saying? Like real quick, like if I have a thought 30 seconds long, I kind of like say it into it and post it.
Interesting.
And I wonder it's because like most people just don't listen to things when they're out in public, right? If you're on like Instagram or Twitter, you're just scrolling and my sound's all the way down unless I have headphones.
It's a European behavior. They're huge talk to text and voice note.
I do that too, like in my personal life.
Yeah. But they'll do it like in a car, in like walking on the street. which is a really interesting kind of differentiate. Like I would never in public like send a voice note.
Oh, I do all the time.
Like in full public around. Okay.
Again, something about making out, right? Make out.
Yeah. Yeah. If you wanted to make out. All right. Thumbnail tip. So you sent me a Twitter thread. We'll have Tommy put it on the screen right here, but do you want to kind of go over any thoughts or just something for the people to check out?
Yeah, so it was a tweet from this guy, Nate. Never seen him before. Discovered it on my For You page. What do you know, right? And it was basically like, he said, want to get better at designing YouTube thumbnails. And if anyone's ever been in like production or film school or whatever, there's this rule of third. And I think they even might break it down to rules of fifth, maybe. Yo, Matt. Is there a rule of fifths in production, or is it rule of thirds only? Just thirds? Rule of fifths or thirds? Thirds, right? There is no fifths. Okay. There's a rule of thirds basically where you like split the screen up into 3, and you can go long ways as well. And based on the different sections of the image itself, and it could be in any sort of, it could be long ways, vertical, horizontal. It's like you're supposed to put specific subjects or specific like the big parts of the image in these boxes or sections of the image itself, and it's more of like a human psychology thing where it's like this is where the consumer looks first. And for me, there wasn't, I'm not like a technically sound person when it comes to like graphics and stuff, but the biggest takeaway for me is, again, usually goes back to like simplicity on designs. And I think especially when you're designing thumbnails, I try to keep it to like 3 or 4 major objects or assets, but make each one have like depth to them, right? Your background can be simple, but make sure it has some sort of like depth or layers to it. It could be like very small designs, but you don't really notice it to the naked eye. Those things go a long way to make it not look like very novice or amateur. When you have, let's say like your thumbnail is literally just like your face with a football player and maybe like an arrow with a word to it, which we've been doing a lot of. It's very simple, but the player, right, we might, we'll almost definitely put like a shadow behind it, like a drop shadow that you don't necessarily like notice, but it goes a long way in the image of it. So when I think of thumbnails and designing, the better I've gotten at it, it's always like less is more with this stuff. And it's a good thread, and we'll link the tweet to the thread, but you could see every one of these, and we'll put the pictures up, is so simple, right? Like they're super clean, but it's one person, the words next to it, like just a group of people, the words. There's never like overbearing designs when it comes to it. And I think when people start to try to design things, whether it's thumbnails or Instagram fucking animations, whatever, it's always like just so much going on that it makes it look crowded, and like spacing is a really big deal and all that kind of stuff. I guess that was kind of my takeaway from it, but it was just really interesting thread. I really like that stuff.
Yeah, you'll see the pictures on the screen. You can also go check out the thread. I'm going to be designing our thumbnail for this week's episode using the rule of thirds, but he broke them up into 9s, right? It's 3s within the 3s.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you guys will see my...
You really going to try it?
Yeah, I'll go for it. It's going to be terrible, but I think that could make a good thumbnail.
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what you guys think. Now a word from our sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by subscribe to the channel and send it to a fucking friend, please.
I was like, where the fuck you going? You better not start plugging
No, because I think this is a good time. We've offered half an hour worth of value. So as we always say, if you are enjoying this, which I've gotten even more feedback that people are enjoying this.
I don't believe you, but.
And last episode did about 600 viewers so far.
So what I've learned, like the numbers definitely help. Going for a more holistic view of like, this is how you get better at being a creator. Not great, but when we put very specific numbers to things, works really well. Like anytime we've talked about subscriber counts, anytime we talk about money, like throwing percentages in there are things that I've taken away. I've looked at. That's like practical advice. If you run, you're in a YouTube channel, you can go look at your YouTube analytics and you could sort by views, but you could also sort by like click-through rate. And then when you do that, you'll start to notice like there are specific either words or assets that you use in the thumbnail that pop to people and kind of go down that road. So I'm thinking like maybe each title has to be way more practical rather than just like, overbearing. And that's something that I've done. And it's kind of like maybe a little bit lazier, but we don't always go into it with subjects that are like very number focused.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about
Threads will actually be an interesting thumbnail / title because it's very relevant right now. We don't always do stuff like that.
100%. And if you look at some of the top trending YouTubers, you've got Mr. Beast, and his new format has constantly been number based. So $1 hotel versus $100 million hotel, $1 yacht versus $1 billion yacht.
Look at his thumbnails too. His face, like one object on it,
very
and possibly one number or like
exact
a text.
Same. Someone who's really getting me to watch daily is Ryan Trahan. Do you follow him at all?
Brother of our intern, James
Trahan. Which one's Trahan?
Corner.
Are you related to Ryan? I wish you were.
He's better. He knows more ball than Ryan does.
But on the flip, Ryan Trahan's doing a challenge right now where he starts with a penny in Europe and he's got to do different tasks to make real life money and to fly back to the United States. It's a challenge, but it's, surviving on 1 penny a day. It's this big penny and like what he did that day or him not being able to shower or something. And so, yeah, the money stuff definitely is not money, numbers.
Yeah. I think about like Mr. Beast sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know if, not that I like wouldn't want what he has, but the way he went about it was just so different than the way that like you or I go about it, or most people that go through content go about it, because he didn't have, his passion was growing on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, what can I do that will get the most views?
So totally would suggest listening. New Colin and Samir with Mr. Beast. So he did one a couple years ago, did a new one. The beastification of YouTube is what they call it, what you're referring to, which is like optimize. His passion at the end of the day is, and he says it like 100 times, is to make the best videos possible for his users. But with that has also,
there's no like
it's that fine line
to it,
It's that fine line of like, what is making the best video? Does making the best video and most entertaining also mean keeping their attention engaged, which means hitting them here.
Let me change, I guess, the way I'm phrasing this conversation.
He doesn't have a thing.
If tomorrow, right, you were, everything that you've done up until now is wiped away. No one knew you didn't have any like connections, networking in any sort of media space whatsoever. And Mr. Beast came to you and said, here is the scripts. Here are the thumbnails you need to make. Here are the titles you need to use for the next 3 years. And by the end of the 3 years, you'll have a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers. But the content itself, you could care less. It was literally like, can I stay inside a hotel room for 5 days?
Right.
Would you do it? Because I think about it, I'm like, man, he could do anything he wants in the world now, which is, I guess, ultimately like what we all want to be as creators, right? Like we use this as a way to gain freedom in our lives, but also talk about the things that we're passionate about. And I don't think I'd like, and we're different people, obviously.
But you hate fantasy football, so
hate it.
so look where you are.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like,
what would I do? 3
it's like
years.
you're dedicating the next 3 years of your life, knowing what the outcome is.
I'd burn out because it's not my personality. I have no interest in like, even when Casey and I did these challenges around sport, it's like that's not it. So we quickly pivoted around against that. But like our F1 video, that was super fun for me because we were racing, we were active, like doing stuff.
My royalty check hit for that.
Yeah, it's coming in a second. No, it's a really good point. But I do think that his ultimate goal is to create the best content, or at least that's what he's saying.
I think I totally now it definitely is, but I think when he started, it was definitely just like, how do I grow as fast as I can, as much as I can?
Yeah, I would agree. Because he thought if he grew it as much as he could, as fast as he can, he could then create, the best content possible for his audience. Do I believe it when he says it? I'm not sure. All right, next topic is a really good one. It's super relevant right now, and it's the cycles and seasons of being a creator. So if you're listening to this, you came from probably Nick or I's audience to begin with. Sports, fantasy football, trivia, but around sports. We're in the dead zone of summer, or we were for the last 30 days. NBA Finals ends, and this summer, no World Cup, no Olympics until the Women's World Cup in a month. But it's just baseball right now, and it is dead. No one's working. Everyone's in the Hamptons. Everyone's having a great summer, which is fine. Everyone's resting, relaxing. But point is, outside of like the work, is that brands are going to spend less. They're doing offsites. They're figuring out budgets. Like everyone's kind of gearing up in our industry for the fall. In other industries, there's different seasons. You could do toys, and that's heavy for the, for Christmas time. You could have a backyard games company that's super heavy during the summer. You sell ice cream, super heavy during the summer. Like this is not a new concept, but I think it's rarely talked about as the cycles of it. And our revenue drops during the summer, and then it spikes during the fall. So as someone who's only been doing it for a couple of years, I'm just now figuring out these patterns. But if you're a new creator and you're like, oh, shit, like I'm growing amazing in the fall, have so much momentum, and then you kind of get hit with that lull during the summer, I think it's good to be prepared for it. But what are your like general thoughts on the cycles?
My general thoughts are that most of the things that you're doing do have extended shelf life if you're creative with it. And I think like we've been lucky within fantasy football because there are certain niches within it that have like taken on lives of their own. Like you can now play best ball the day after the season stops. We're really into dynasty. So it became fantasy football is a year-round game now for people that care about it, right? And our customer base is people that care about fantasy football. So I don't care about the rest of the people that, you know, the drive-by fantasy players that come in at the end of August. Like, sure, they're going to spend money with us, but they're not.
Is that what you call them? I like that. Drive-by.
Yeah. People that come last week or whatever. The ones that pay the bills actually here. I think with a little bit of creativity, you could usually. I think like your brother Casey, I thought started making like an awesome series with the soccer stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like ways to fix Chelsea, ways to fix these teams over the offseason. Those things can be translated to any sport or a lot of different industries and stuff like that. And I think that is another takeaway is like look at other people. If you are in football, go look at a basketball creator and see what they're doing in the offseason, and that might inspire you to take some ideas for it. As it relates to like revenue and stuff, I mean, that really depends on how much money you need to bring in. We make it so lopsided during the summer that we don't put pressure on ourselves to make a ton during the winter. Obviously, we'd like to maximize that. And we can do that now that, like, if your content is creative enough to get people engaged during the off season, then you could somehow productize it one way or another.
But less so. Like you said, you can play best ball the day after the draft, but
way
it's
less
like
people care.
Way less people are tuned into that. So yeah, I don't actually know if I had a major point to be just like a notice.
It's fair. I do think most creators, like obviously we are talking to sports creators, so there's going to be seasonality, but I think like imagine in 10 years, you and me are just like talking about business marketing. There's never, there's not like a down season. You know what I mean? It's just like year round, which is, I think, probably most creators out there.
No, I feel like most creators are in a niche, and a lot of niches probably have seasons to it. Travel, like that has seasons to it. Has spike seasons. You're more likely to travel during the winter and the summer.
I guess
you're more likely to travel
what your content
from
is, I guess.
But everyone is niche down for the most part, and I think that's the future of creator too.
Maybe.
Like the general travel creator will, 4 or 5 will win, but the go to these islands creator, go to these places on points creator, and you could argue that points has an influx.
But you could like travel anywhere, like different places have different seasons during it and all that kind of stuff. But that was just one example, of course. But seasonality, I think my biggest takeaway is that like the off season is realistically not a time to take off. I think that's when you build a foundation.
Yeah, you build.
You build a foundation, and you also reassess. Like if you know that this time of the year is not a ton of engagement, in 6 months it's a ton of engagement. Maybe you take some time. Maybe you make one less piece of content, and you spend those 2 to 3 to 6 hours in that day thinking about how you can make the peak season better, right? Like, what did I not like about last year? What could we have improved upon last year? What could we have done better during the September to December months? And now that it's April and May, we could actually focus on, setting that up. So I like to look at the offseason as it's not a lull for us. We work just as hard, but we work differently. We work on long-term
It's like a
vision.
professional athlete. You work out during the off season because there's no games, and then you're ready and prepared for
you don't got to practice if you don't got to. You're already ready. I forget what the fucking quote is. Struggling there. You don't got to get ready if you stay ready. Whatever. If you just practice a lot, that's what the off season is like. Practice. It's getting reps in for when the spotlight is really on you.
Yeah,
and you never know what's going to pop off. You might find the inspiration that leads into your peak season stuff. So seasonalities, you got to be ready. You got to be ready for that time.
We'll get you the official
I'm ready for
quote.
my moment.
Yeah.
I'm
Are
not,
you ready? So
I'm not stopping.
You guys do more business during the summer than during the season, or you're saying like the second half of the season?
I would say July, August, September, and trickles into October.
Yeah.
That is like.
That's it. You work for 4 months.
I work for 12 months. I get paid for 4 months.
So
I got flip the energy you just came at me with, motherfucker.
All right, last topic. Thumbnail candidate as well. Michael Rubin's white party. I assume since you're a big Instagram person, you saw all your favorite follows were in attendance.
I just saw like the recap or highlight video on Twitter from it. It looked incredible.
Okay, so give me all your thoughts.
I mean, it's just like the most exclusive party of just like every shot. You're like, wow, that guy's so famous, and you're somehow the next video is like more famous than the last person.
So we are going to talk about how this applies
I'm not even
to
sure
creators,
like what you meant. Yeah.
But I just want to give my general thoughts on it. as a white party intense follower, as a fan of the white party, so it's been going on like 3 years. So 21 coming out of COVID was kind of where it piqued my interest. And then last year was like a big thing. Like
You're trying to get invited. I feel like you're going to be there in like 2 years. Probably.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. I mean,
no, but no, there's levels. There's levels. But this year was funny. It was like the general public, this was their first real consumption of it. So they're like, holy shit, what is this? Picked up by every media outlet. They did press around it. They did videos and editing and all that. Last year to me was way cooler, not because of the people, but because it felt like they weren't trying to make it this whole thing. And now like he went on podcasts before the party and talked about it, like, and there's one person, funny enough, that
let me
guess who the person that was there that ruined it for me from making it cool. It's gonna be insanely ironic.
Can I get like I need like some sort of
So
like,
all right. So I thought what's cool to me about the party in 22 was that it was a mixture of athletes, celebrities that are sports adjacent, rappers who have always had that sports, like everything revolves around sport, which made sense with Fanatics. Even the social media stars that were there, that's like culture, which then connected to sports. There was someone there who I felt had no ties at all to sport. And I don't think...
No ties to sport.
Yeah, and I don't think they're friends with Michael Rubin. And I think that that's what made it not cool. Like, he finally went outside of his network.
Is it like Dixie D'Amelio?
No. Dixie D'Amelio has been, like, the D'Amelios and Rubin are super close. And she's like there was a whole run in 21 where they got invited to every All-Star game, did content with all that.
I only saw like the highlight video. I don't know if
he was in there.
He was in there. Yeah, it was a he too.
It was a he.
It's a lot of athletes.
I'll give you the counter while you think about it. Kylian Mbappe, I felt was the coolest. He fit the most in there, and he's international, and that's probably a lot. Like, he's the young international star who's kind of on the outside looking in.
There was a lot of like, was there a lot of like 76ers there?
There were 76, but that's he owned the Sixers. So there's reasons for every person being there. Like Grant Williams was there. He was grandfathered in with Mo Bamba because they were there the year before. I'm trying to think. But there's one guy who I was like, now, as cool as this is, it's actually made it less cool for me.
It's not David Dobrik. I didn't even see him in the video.
He wasn't there.
He just seems like someone that would piss you off being there.
No, I like Dobrik. And I think he would be a good...
I can't think of it.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, I mean, come on.
On paper, he's probably the coolest, dopest person there.
What's your problem with it?
My problem is him and Michael Rubin are not friends.
How do you know that?
I just know.
Okay.
But it's all guessing. But my feeling is...
I just know. It's all guessing.
And the only other piece of data I have is that I know that Leo got offered $1 million to sit in a suite at the Super Bowl in LA and declined. So he does not fuck with sports, clearly. Or maybe his time is worth more than that. But... it just, there's no, like, you don't think sports when you think DiCaprio at all. Like,
no,
Bieber collabs with the Maple Leafs.
At this party, I don't think of sports either.
But that's, for me, that's where it all stems from. Like, Kardashian, obvious.
I think it's just
all the rappers, obvious.
It's just the most exclusive.
Name one other, but it's not. But Michael Rubin is a sports figure. His sports business is now bigger than life. It's $50 billion. But
so you're mad at him for throwing a party the way he wants to throw it.
I'm not mad.
You're just not going to accept the invite when it comes your way.
No.
You're like, I would never go to a party that Leonardo DiCaprio was invited to.
I will go. I'm saying all this media press build up is making it. It's the factor of like, it's cool because you're not trying to make it cool. And then they followed up today and they're throwing this big Saturday night party at NBA Summer League and having Shams tweet about it, have the NBA post about it. It's like,
I get it.
It's an agenda now. And it went from, and saying.
When Supreme starts running sponsored ads, it becomes problematic.
Exactly. And they've never run, Rolls Royce doesn't run commercials.
I get it.
Rolex advertises, but Wimbledon, F1. If Rolex started advertising at the Cincinnati Reds stadium,
yeah, sure,
it would feel less cool.
But I do think the two different points you brought up they're different to me. Like Leonardo DiCaprio being there does not make it any less cool to me. Them doing like a press tour to be like, we're throwing the coolest party ever, different level of corniness.
Yeah, I think that inviting DiCaprio is what they're doing to make it this press tour because they make it look cool by having him there, but it's not a true connection. And hey, maybe they are boys, but
It's like if you're a content creator, like making content that's not your niche, but you know it'll get clicked.
Exactly.
It's like streaking through New York.
Exactly.
It's like I'm a New York content creator. Let me streak through New York. You know? Okay.
So, anyways,
okay, fair.
The whole point about
you win
me bringing up the Michael Rubin White Party is because there was a cool moment for creators. So A-list celebrities all over the park, like we said, from DiCaprio to Bieber to Kardashians to Grant Williams of the world. And then you had like 5 or 6 creators. So you had Alex Earl, who's obviously had a massive blow up. You had the D'Amelios, who had a blow up over the last few years. Drewski was there. I think he did some stuff with Jack Harlow. I'm trying to think. The Fat Jewish was there.
Really?
Yeah. And he wore like a bathing suit with Michael Rubin on his ass. Like, you know, there's certain levels of creators who are now kind of in that celebrity role. I just think it's something to mention. It's not certainly something to like aspire to be, but it does kind of, you know, position creators in a world where historically they would never get invited to something like that. But now, who made more sense to be there? Was it Grant Williams or was it Alex Earl? I think like most people would be like, oh, Alex Earl's there for sure.
Yeah.
Why the fuck is Grant Williams there?
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know. I mean, I guess like there probably still were a lot of people there, especially a lot of the people that were there are maybe in the older demographic a little bit, at least relative to social media now. They're probably like, who the fuck is this Dixie? What are these like 16-year-old people doing here? So I think there's always going to be that stigma from the generation above us about creators. Yeah,
and we've talked about this before. Like movies and TV is still so much bigger than social, but social is, you know, creeping up. It's making some noise.
Threads is about to push us over.
All right, here we go. In the comments right now, will there be a Threads creator at Michael Rubin's White Party in 2024?
Well, the problem with that is they're not a Threads creator; they're an Instagram creator. Right.
So maybe yes.
No, I need the Michael. If he sends out invites, there should be a reason why. There should be an explanation for every invite.
That would be funny. I actually, funny enough, was went to the Fanatics office and we had a meeting with just one of my friends there, and we went in. This was back in like probably March or April, and the meeting room right before us was White Party like prep.
Really?
And I was looking for envelope. I'm like, should I slip my name in there? Yeah,
you just write your own invite.
I would go. Yeah, of course I would go. I don't
even know if I would go. I'd be like fucking. That's probably the most overwhelming like group of people ever assembled on Earth.
It's like, would you go solo? Like, would you go with a friend? Yes.
Yeah.
But would you go solo?
Who would talk to me? You know what I mean?
No one. Like, realistically, no one.
I'd jump in the pool.
Yeah.
Make
a scene.
I'd push someone in the pool.
That's all I got.
I don't know if I'd go. Yeah, I'm down to rip.
All right. Well, share with a friend. Grab to the pod.
Let us know how Jack's thumbnail did.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Click-through rate.
Yeah, let us know if you clicked on it because of that.
I'm doing the thumb for this.
You think you can handle it? Did you see my thumb on the channel today? Go look at the BDG channel.
Man.
Like the fantasy one. What do you mean? That was fire. The click-through rate is through the fucking roof on it.
Let me see. Give me studio.
Give me studio.
It's like
12.6%. Last year, the video I did on tight ends, it was probably not as crazy, but it got like 85,000 views.
Does it get bad click-through though? Because
no, it's great click-through.
Why wouldn't you do Kelsey and Andrews?
Because they're not in the video. The video is like tight ends I love after the first 10 tight ends in drafts.
Thumbnail outrageous.
This was last year's. I got 85,000.
It's autoplay. That's good.
Basically, my thumbnails come out depending on how horny I am. You can tell how many shadows I use and things like that. Where'd you go to dinner last night? Who'd you go with?
Kima. I went with